Hello again. Welcome back to the podcast daily. It's Wednesday. The college football playoff rankings are out, but guess what? We don't care. We're not going to talk about them today. I don't want to get worked up. Maybe tomorrow, but not today.
It's just not worth it.
I gotta.
We
relax.
said all we could say last Thursday.
The same thing applies. Just watch last Thursday's daily if you want to hear me talk about the college football playoff selection committee and their idiotic opinions.
But we should thank Clemson for proving that they are not belonging in the top four. So, well done.
Well, Notre Dame, thank you for handling that for everyone, because a lot of Clemson opponents, after Clemson tried to let them get knocked out of the playoff, couldn't seal the deal. Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham, I'm Austin Ward. So, that's out of the way, and it's Stockwatch time. Stonks are going to be probably weird when you play a 21-7 game in a wind tunnel. So, who wants to go first?
I will go up for Paris Johnson, who played the best game of the offensive lineman on Saturday. Continues to be the guy that goes out there and sets his personality, and he sets the tone for himself and makes sure that trying to bring others along with him. He's been very, very good in pass pro all year long. Played a very tough physical run game against 9 offensive linemen. Didn't ever see the left side of that line really get collapsed like I did the right. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, but I don't think I am. I think Paris continues to play at a very high level. I think he's setting himself up to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft next April or May, whenever they do that.
Top 5.
And
Top 5.
I do. I just look at the kid. I mean,
Guy is on the rise.
look at the kid. Stonk way up for Paris Johnson. Now, that said, he is going to have his moment in the next couple of weeks when you get to play Michigan. They're going to do a lot of different things. We've had, in the last 6 years, even though Ohio State's only lost to Michigan once in that stretch, a number of times where Ohio State offensive linemen have looked pretty bad against the Wolverines, going back to Isaiah Prince in 2016, where he basically had his lunch eaten for him all day long. So Michigan will certainly try to do a lot of things like that, but Paris is moving in the right direction.
I don't want Bill to take this, so I'm going to do it right now.
Oh, man.
Stock way up for Jesse Mirko.
See ya.
I knew I had to do it. The one late in the third quarter, downwind from the right hash coffin corner to the left side. I don't know that I've ever seen it before.
I want to talk with Jesse Mirko about whether that was as intended. It looked really good, so I guess, give him credit.
Because
Do you think
normally
it was
if
a shank that just caught the wind?
and just
I
played
think
perfectly,
I think the wind might have aided that.
like Ari's hole in one.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, well, if that's the case,
But hey, it worked out.
Look,
Good for him.
that's how you know that you're at an elite level, when
That
even
is
your
true.
shanks turn
That's
out.
true. That's true.
I would gladly take that back in my repertoire when you can take an aggressive miss and it turns out for you. But also, having to drive, some balls into the wind, I thought he did that very well. He got one into the wind, I think, that was a bad bounce that skipped forward that I didn't think was possible.
Slick surface.
Slick
there.
surface.
Yeah.
So, look, Ohio State never wants to have to rely on the punter being a weapon for them. But as we've seen with Drew Chrisman and Cameron Johnson before that, it can be in the talent-equated games. Northwestern wasn't one of those, but the weather helped neutralize it, and Jesse Mirko rose to the challenge.
He has more power, I think, than I maybe anticipated. He's really good at sort of those end-over-end kind of golf shots almost that land inside the 5. Really had to drive the ball through that wind, and he did a good job. So I think it's a well-deserved stock up.
I wonder how much of that is just a kid from Australia. The wind is weird down there all the time, right? Like,
Everything wants to kill you in Australia.
you take it personal down there?
Oh, man. The guy made one
You
good
had the
joke.
right idea trying to leave.
Get it?
Guy made one good pun on the Tuesday snap judgments, and now he
That
thinks
wasn't
he's
a pun.
Sinbad. It wasn't?
No.
Personal? It was not.
No. Personal was a pun. The comment about the 3 yards in a cloud dust is not a pun.
Whatever.
So I wrote a song about that.
So anyway, Bill, it's your turn.
Personal.
Because he's from Perth, Australia.
Yeah, I know. I got it.
Got it.
Yeah. We get it. Oh,
Thanks,
man.
America and Australia, for listening.
I'll go a little stock up maybe on G. Scott Jr. Played a lot against Northwestern because they were going to some of those bigger personnel packages. They ran some plays where a lot was asked of him sort of as a puller on some gap schemes. I thought he did a pretty good job. I still would like to see him, or maybe I'm more curious to see what it looks like to get him more involved as a pass catcher. They tried to throw that one to him over the middle where it looked like I got caught up in the wind and allowed the DB to make a play on the ball, so I don't really pin that on anybody except for the wind. But he's got an interesting skill set and appears to be increasingly more comfortable as a blocker, particularly a blocker in space, which I think could be a nice weapon for this offense moving forward. So I say like slightly up on G.
Yeah, I'm going to stay at tight end, and as much as I hate to say it, I'm going to have to go flat on Cade Stover, who had clearly his toughest game of the year, not just catching the ball on Saturday because of, I will put that on the wind, but also blocking was in a position where a couple of times, if he's able to hold a block just a second longer, that plays can go for much bigger gains. He did not seem to be 100% healthy. It looked like he kind of hurt something lower body-wise early on in that game, and I think that played with him the rest of the way. I'm curious to see how he is moving when we get back in here on Wednesday night to see post-practice. And honestly, it's weird how the 3 minutes of post-practice has become sort of the eyeball test for everyone as you start to look ahead toward the weekend. But
don't tell our secrets.
Other people do it too. We see it every week. There's pictures of going, this guy's walking across the field. So like it happens. But I think with Cade, he was so much better at the start of the year than anyone anticipated that maybe this leveling off is just really, reverting to the mean. But he certainly needs to be a bigger part of things in the next couple weeks for Ohio State. And part of that is the physicality he brings, which that to me was the reason for the level on Saturday. Was not that he dropped a ball or two. I don't care about that. To me, it's about how physical are you and are you winning those battles. He's won them all year. He did not win them on Saturday.
Looked like it was maybe that tight end screen that was pretty well designed at the end of it. He took a shot near the hip.
Yeah.
I think that was probably what he was carrying with him. The other part, as you guys talk about the two tight ends there, Joe Royer was available and traveled for Ohio State on Saturday. So another addition to that group. I feel like we kind of forget about him. He'd been dealing with a groin injury all year, as well as a tough situation for his family. But if you're able to add in somebody who, back in March 15th, if we were in this building, we said, well, he's going to be the starting tight end for this team and the most important guy. If that's another thing that you can add into the arsenal, we'll see how that transpires. But we talked about the run game. We've talked about everything else that they're trying to do. Tight ends are a key part of that. So something to keep an eye on. I'm going to give a stock up to Mayan Williams. I think there was a lot of, hand-wringing early on. He looks slow. He's not fully healthy. He's not getting to these cuts the right way. I don't think that was a Mayan Williams situation. He's clearly not 100%. I think that's a fair assessment to make. There weren't a lot of cutbacks to be made when the line of scrimmage was moving back 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage and into his face. And the play calling, as we've touched on ad nauseum, hasn't been the most creative or elaborate for Ryan Day in recent weeks. But he just kept going. And I've said that all year. One of the most impressive parts of what he does is that he continues to fight. Even if he's got 3 tacklers draped on his back, he's going to keep trying to push for extra yardage. To still finish with over 100 yards rushing and the impressive touchdown there, the go-ahead one for the Buckeyes, was one of the better runs. Seems like underappreciated considering the grand scheme, but in the moment and the way he bounced it and the energy that he finished with, and C.J. Stroud even throwing a little block there at the end. Very impressive run. Stock up for Mayan Williams. I hope for his sake that he gets a little bit of a rest on Saturday against Indiana and other backs get in there, because I was stunned that he had to take every single rushing attempt.
I think I said before the game, you don't want to give Mayan Williams 30 carries, and they gave him 26. so I guess they didn't want to. Yeah, right. They stayed under the 30. I thought he was going to get one of those 3rd and 1s. It was not well blocked, and he had to shove off one tackler, and then he was about to plant and go through what looked like a little bit of a crease, and he slipped.
Yeah.
Again, that doesn't explain away some of their issues, but I think that speaks to what he's able to do, which is turn nothing into something. So I like that. I'll go stock up on Marvin Harrison Jr. If there's any more room left to go up.
What's that I hear in the background? That's a Monarch machine.
That's the sweet sounds of the Monarch machine and Marvin catching passes. On a day where it was really hard to catch the ball, I don't believe he had a drop. We saw drops on both sides. He had 5 catches for 51 yards. I believe they all went for first downs again, maybe 4 or 5 were first downs. All he does is get first downs and touchdowns, apparently. I just thought it was impressive in those elements to show maybe a different part of his skill set, which is just like really strong hands. Nothing super spectacular. They tried that shot play to him. Looked like he got held. They didn't call it.
He did get held. That's one where, I don't mean to cut you off, but
okay.
Jim Knowles was talking on Tuesday about how you don't say anything, you just keep moving. Like Marvin, because he's not your traditional diva wide receiver, isn't flailing and begging for the call. He was actually just grasped and slowed down the entire way. So I think if he would have tried to sell that at all, it's a holding penalty, but whatever.
Yeah, and if it didn't happen, he maybe can run under it and score a touchdown there, and that changes the tenor of the game. But just continued strong play for him. So like he's becoming, I think, maybe the best receiver in college football. I don't know. I know some people think that already. I'm not quite ready to say that just yet, because it just feels like crowning a guy too early. But he's played exceptionally well, really all season, and especially since the bye week, when he's become kind of the focal point of the passing attack.
The guy that moved the ball, and he caught the one on the 3rd and 11 or something that CJ had to throw over the middle, where he got hit and caught it. Yeah, just doing things that other guys didn't do on Saturday. Yeah. Not that they haven't done all year, but they didn't do on Saturday. Stock up for me is Teron Vincent again. I continue to just think he's playing really, really good football at defensive tackle for Ohio State. Coming into this season, if you would have told me that Teron Vincent would be the difference maker in the middle for Ohio State, I would not have believed you. But he has just been super consistent every week, constantly making plays. He's the guy drawing a lot of double teams. And one thing I really like about Teron is he's out there, and you guys don't see it up in the box, but he's having a great time. He talks
a lot of mess, doesn't he?
He is constantly smiling. He's constantly dancing. I just think that energy is something that is different from Ohio State's defense from a year ago. And it radiates from the middle, and Teron is doing a lot of really great things for Ohio State. So, up.
That whole defense seems to be having a lot more fun, pumping up crowds even on the road, doing things that we didn't see a lot of last year or 2 years ago. We remember asking Haskell Garrett about, well, you're the only one providing energy for this team. He's like, yeah, I really try my best. And he was out there basically doing it alone. Like, it's fine to be a ringleader. There's a lot of other people participating.
Yeah, there has to be people in the ring with you. Otherwise, you're just a lunatic.
Just a ranting stranger. Yeah, that's a good one. It was really only one play that flashed on Saturday for Palaie Neoteote, but it was a pretty big one, and it came on the 4th and 1. Tommy Eichenberg's helmet came off, and I don't even remember the last time he had to miss a key snap this season. Probably hadn't happened.
I don't think it has.
And Tommy Eichenberg had to go to the sideline for one of the key plays, and Ohio State was in that jumbo look, and you saw him, Teron Vincent, attacked, was able to set the point there, and EA filled and was able to wrap up from behind and sort of snuff that one out for a key stop, getting Ohio State off the field there in a key moment. Injuries have obviously been a problem for him, and he hasn't had the chance to make the impact that he would have envisioned when he left USC and arrived last year. But it's never too late, and he did that in a key moment for Ohio State on Saturday. What that means against Indiana or Maryland, maybe not much. But if Jim Knowles is considering what's it going to take on November 26th, how much do you need to go with a third linebacker or potentially fourth? I don't know that there's probably a lot of necessity to play 4-4 against Michigan's personnel, but we'll see. It's at least something that they can now consider that they didn't have before with he and Taraja Mitchell both now back and active.
Yeah, it's nice to know you have it in the bag. I agree. I don't know how much we'll see it moving forward, because the thing with Northwestern was you could put 4 linebackers on the field because you knew they weren't going to throw the ball.
Right.
Michigan will still get big and want to throw the ball, and I don't think you want to find yourself with 4 linebackers like that on the field if you're Ohio State.
Yep.
Who was I just going to say? This has been too positive.
Here we go.
Stock down. I mean, it's obvious one. Stock down on the guard position. It's just not very good right now.
Right.
Matthew Jones is dealing with his foot, which we talked about on the Tuesday snap judgments. I think you could make the argument that Donovan Jackson has probably played a little worse than Matthew Jones on a down-to-down basis. And they just got to be better. Like, there's the run game, particularly the way they want to run the ball, is just hard to get going if those two positions, left guard, right guard, are allowing penetration at the rate that those two guys are. And there have been moments of really good play from both of them. It's not to say they can't get it back. But what we've seen the last 3 weeks is just, it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder with Donovan if it's just a little confidence issue. Just, you give up the big play in the Iowa game, and all of a sudden things have sort of gone kerplunk from there for him after playing really, really well in the first 6 games of the year. With Paulier, I'll just to add a thought, like, a lot of times when kids come out of high school and they have all the accolades, Paulier Neoteote was a 5-star recruit, a number 1 ranked inside linebacker in the country in the class of 2018 out of Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. And, like, he's just been plagued his entire career.
His start of the career was awesome.
Yeah,
Very good, really productive.
He's been plagued his entire career with injuries from ankles to concussions to everything else and shoulders. And it's just, it's a shame when that happens, but I just always like seeing a kid at the end, get a shot. Like Johnny Dixon's story at Ohio State is always going to be one of my favorites ever because by the time his 5th year rolled around, you're like, why is he even trying this? And then he went out there and, played and got a chance to play in the NFL after years of wondering if he could ever even walk when he left Ohio State. So it's just pretty cool to see that all come together.
All right, that's a stock watch for one of the weirder games that many of us have covered, which was Ohio State 21 and Northwestern 7. I think we're ready to finally fully close the book on that chapter and move on to Ohio State, Indiana, which is one day closer, Saturday at noon in the Horseshoe. We will, of course, be there, and a lot more content coming on both the podcast and at ohiostate.rivals.com. That's where we'll be. That's Bill, Berm, I'm Austin, and we will see you there.